Hello, dear soul. Tonight, let your heart be still. Let your thoughts drift like soft winds over ancient hills. You're not in your room anymore. You're stepping into the sacred past, a time before pages were bound and books named, before the Bible stood as it does today, into the whispers of mystery, of light and shadow, into the Book of Enoch. Yes, the Book of Enoch, a book once revered, once read, once cherished, and now forgotten, removed, hidden. Why? Who decided? What did it say that stirred such fear or wonder? Let us begin this story not with certainty, but with curiosity. Not with answers, but with wonder. Rest, beloved. Draw near. Let your mind wander across time and desert. We're going to trace an echo, the echo of a book lost to the sand of history. You may be familiar with Enoch, a man briefly mentioned in Genesis. Genesis 5 verse 24 tells us, "And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him." That's it. Just that. No death, no tomb. Just taken, lifted, removed from the earth. But what if he had more to say? Now imagine this. In the hidden libraries of Ethiopia, there lies a manuscript, a book long excluded from the Bibles you and I grew up with. But in that land, it was preserved, read aloud, and passed from hand to trembling hand. The Book of Enoch, a book that dares to tell what Enoch saw, of angels who sinned, of heaven's secrets, of giants who walked the earth, of judgment and mercy, of cosmic visions so immense they steal the breath. Let your mind wander, beloved, and listen like a child again, listening to a story under the stars. In the beginning, there were the Watchers. The Book of Enoch tells us they were angels, sent by God to guide mankind. But instead they desired. They looked upon human women with longing, and they descended, and they took them. They taught humankind forbidden knowledge, weapons of war, the art of sorcery, the secrets of the stars and roots of the earth. And in their union with mortals, they bore giants, enormous beings called Nephilim. Do you remember Genesis 6 verse 4? There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. It's only a whisper in Genesis, but in the Book of Enoch, it's a thunderclap. These giants devoured the earth, its fruits, its animals, even mankind, and the cries of the world reached heaven. The archangels, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, they heard, and God, he saw, and judgment was declared. But wait, dear soul, pause with me here. Let the image settle in your spirit. A world corrupted not by men alone, but by divine rebellion. Angels who were meant to protect, now defilers of creation. Rest, beloved, for this is not merely fantasy. This was once considered truth by many early followers of the way. The Book of Enoch was known in the days of Jesus. Quotations echo in the words of the apostles. Jude 1 verses 14 to 15 directly quotes Enoch, saying, "Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all." Why would New Testament writer quote a book not in the Bible? Why would early Christians read from it, speak of it, preserve it, only for it to vanish centuries later? Let your mind drift gently as we wander through the quiet halls of ancient history. Enoch's writings were once cherished among the Essenes, that strange, secluded sect who dwelled in the caves of Qumran. They who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. They preserved the Book of Enoch. The early church fathers knew it. Even Tertullian, that ancient theologian, once defended it. But then something shifted as church councils gathered, as canon was formed, as Rome grew in power and orthodoxy became law. Enoch was inconvenient. Its teachings about angels, about secret knowledge, about judgment not just of men, but of divine beings. These are hard things. The church, rising like a fortress, began to build walls. They feared heresy. They feared Gnostics. And so, the Book of Enoch was cast aside. Not condemned outright, no. Just forgotten. Silently excluded. Its voice hushed. But why? Imagine yourself walking through a candlelit monastery. A room of scrolls and sacred texts. Now, picture a monk unrolling a parchment, reading of angelic rebellions, of heavenly courts, of visions where Enoch walks among the stars, sees the tree of life, and watches the coming judgment of kings. To read Enoch is to be undone, to see the heavens not as distant, but near, to believe that knowledge has been hidden, and truth scattered like starlight. Rest, beloved, let your heart drift in this mystery. What if the Book of Enoch held truths meant for another time? What if it was sealed like the scroll in Revelation, waiting for eyes that would see, ears that would hear? Could it be that now, in our time, as secrets come to light, as ancient texts are translated, as the veil between past and present grows thin, that Enoch's voice returns? Draw near, beloved. You are not alone in your wonder. Many today are awakening to this forgotten book, not as dogma, but as invitation, not as doctrine, but as dream. To read it is not to forsake your faith, but to deepen it, to trace the divine not only through church walls, but across stars and stones and ancient echoes. The Book of Enoch, was it removed to protect us, or to protect the powerful? That, beloved, is the question we must now follow. Softly, slowly, like walking through fog with only moonlight to guide. Let this story guide you to rest. Let it awaken something sacred in you. A thirst not for answers, but for presence. Subscribe, dear one, if you seek more sacred mysteries. Let your nights be filled with stories that stir the soul. Now breathe, settle into the silence. The next part of Enoch's journey awaits. Let us return, beloved. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the sound of wind rustling through ancient cedars, a sky streaked with stars too bright for our modern eyes, and far away, a presence, watching, waiting. You are now in the world of Enoch. Rest, beloved. Let your mind wander to the time before the flood, when men lived long upon the earth, and the veil between heaven and earth was thin. Back then, the world was not as it is now. It was young, but it was trembling. We spoke of the Watchers, angels sent from heaven. Their purpose was to guide mankind, to teach righteousness. But something changed. Their hearts, once pure, turned. They looked down upon the daughters of men and saw beauty. They desired not just to guide, but to possess. And so, 200 of them descended upon Mount Hermon, a holy mountain, a sacred place. There they made a pact. They swore an oath, bound by rebellion. They agreed to take wives from among men, knowing it would cost them heaven. Let your spirit feel the weight of that moment. These were not demons, beloved. They were angels, beings of light. And they fell, not because they were cast down, but because they chose to descend. Their leader, a mighty one named Simjaza, led the way. And with him were others, Azazel, Ramiel, Serial, and many more. Names nearly lost to time, but once spoken in fear and awe. Azazel, the book tells us, taught men to make weapons, swords and shields, knives and spears. He taught women to use mirrors to wear eye paint, to adorn themselves and seduce. What began as beauty turned to bloodshed. Men, once peaceful, learned war. And the giants, the offspring of angels and women. They grew in size, in hunger, and pride. These Nephilim roamed the earth, devouring its fruits, then its animals, then its people. The earth cried out under their weight. Rest, beloved. Let your heart settle, for this is heavy. But it is in the heavy places that light shines brightest. Enoch, still walking with God, was called upon. He was no mere prophet. He was a scribe of heaven. He was taken, lifted above the earth. And there he saw the throne of God. He saw fiery wheels, rivers of stars, and books, endless books, recording every deed of man and angel alike. In one vision, he saw the Watchers chained beneath the mountains, begging for mercy. But God had turned his face. The sentence had been passed. Listen to the words from Enoch's own mouth. Carried down through fragments and translations, you have defiled the earth with your deeds. You shall have no peace, for your judgment is final. The archangels were sent. Michael, the warrior. Raphael, the healer. Gabriel, the messenger. And Uriel, the light of God. They were commanded to act, to bind the Watchers in the valleys of the earth. to cleanse the land of the giants, and to warn mankind of what was coming. For the flood was not just to judge man, but to wash away the abominations born of heaven and earth. Draw near, beloved. Imagine Enoch standing before the fallen angels. Imagine their voices rising, pleading for forgiveness. But heaven was silent. Enoch returned to earth, changed. He warned his generation. He wrote what he saw. He passed down visions that men would one day call heresy, but others would call truth. The Book of Enoch does not just tell of rebellion. It tells of order, of divine justice, of a world governed by holy cycles, stars, seasons, winds. It reveals an ancient cosmology where heaven has many levels, and angels stand watch over elements and time. Let your mind drift through those heavenly halls. Imagine doors of fire, rooms filled with the fragrance of incense and light. And Enoch, still human, walking among them. He was called the scribe of righteousness, the one who wrote for the generations to come, but who would read his words. The early Hebrews? Yes. The Essenes? Yes. The Ethiopian Christians? Yes. But the councils of Rome? No. Rest, beloved. Feel the tension. This was not simply theological debate. This was about control, about what could be known and what must be forgotten. You see, the Book of Enoch gives man a terrifying glimpse that the cosmos is not silent, that angelic beings move among us, that the world we see is only a shadow of the unseen. For the church fathers trying to protect unity, this was too much, too dangerous, too wild. So the book was left out, not burned, not banned, just quietly shelved. And there it stayed, for centuries, until a Scottish explorer, James Bruce, journeyed to Ethiopia in the 1700s. There he found it, the complete Book of Enoch, preserved, translated, waiting. Now you hold it too, not in your hands, but in your ears, in your heart. You are part of the rediscovery, beloved, part of the great remembering. Let this mystery guide you to rest. Let it comfort you, even in its strangeness. You do not have to understand all. You only need to be open. Subscribe for more sacred journeys. And let the forgotten truths of old stir something new within you. Rest now. Enoch's visions are far from over. When you are ready, we will walk further. Rest, beloved. Let the quiet return to you. Sink into the stillness of the night, where your thoughts flow gently like a river through Eden. Let the ancient winds of wonder surround you. You are safe here. We continue now with Enoch, not just a man, but a traveler of heaven. You see, Enoch was unlike any other prophet. He was not shown glimpses in dreams, nor did he merely hear divine whispers. He was taken, body, mind, soul, into the heavens themselves, carried by angels, lifted beyond time. The Book of Enoch tells of this journey in rich detail. Close your eyes, beloved, and imagine yourself rising with him. The earth below fades into mist. Clouds part, and before you unfolds a realm of endless light and burning holiness. The first heaven he enters is one of soft radiance. Stars like singing embers swirl around, and angelic voices hum in unison. He is not alone. The angel Uriel walks beside him, and he explains the ways of the sun and the moon, the paths they take, the gates they enter and exit from, the appointed times they rise and fall. Let your mind wander, dear one, to the rhythm of the stars. In Enoch's vision, the cosmos is not cold and lifeless. It is alive. It breathes with divine purpose. He is shown the second heaven, where rebel angels are imprisoned, suspended in darkness, chained and weeping, crying out for mercy that will not come. They tremble at Enoch's presence, because he carries the words of the Most High. Let this truth settle into your heart. Even angels are judged. Even beings of light can fall. In the third heaven, Enoch sees paradise. Yes, the very Garden of Eden. Still there, still guarded. A place of eternal spring, rivers of life, trees of wisdom and healing. It was not destroyed, beloved, only hidden. And beside it, he sees the place prepared for the wicked, a realm of sorrow, where the souls of the unrighteous await judgment. Draw near, beloved. Don't fear. These visions are not meant to terrify. They are meant to awaken. Enoch continues. He sees the fourth heaven, where the movements of the seasons are governed, where angelic beings set in motion the weather, the winds, the rain, the frost. Nothing is random, nothing without design. In the fifth and sixth heavens, he encounters hosts of angels, some radiant with praise, others stern, recording the sins of men. They are scribes, like Enoch himself, guardians of record. And finally, the seventh heaven. Let your breath slow, for here Enoch sees the face of God. Not directly, no, for even the angels veil themselves in that presence. But he sees the throne. He hears the endless hymn, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of spirits. And around the throne, thousands upon thousands of fiery beings, flames with eyes, voices like rushing water, praise unending. And in this place, Enoch is told something sacred. He is no longer just a man. He is appointed. He will become the heavenly scribe. He will record the judgments of the watchers, the fate of the Nephilim, the destiny of the righteous and the wicked alike. And God speaks, not with thunder, but with a still, immeasurable weight. The voice that spoke light into being now entrusts Enoch with secrets. Secrets of time, secrets of the end. Rest, beloved. Can you feel the trembling holiness of that moment? The Book of Enoch tells us that God showed him not only the fall of angels, but the future of the world. He was shown the coming of the Messiah. Yes, hundreds of years before Christ's birth, Enoch saw the Son of Man, seated beside God, radiant, eternal, who would judge the nations and bring justice to the meek. This is the very language Jesus used of himself. The title Son of Man, it echoes from Enoch. And so in quiet ways, Enoch's voice lived on through Christ. Can you hear it? Let your spirit drift. Though the book was silenced, its echoes are everywhere. In Matthew, in Jude, in Revelation, the symbols, the phrases, they point back to Enoch, the man who walked with God, and he did not return the same. According to the story, after his visions, Enoch was taken again, this time forever. He was not buried. He did not age. God took him, as Genesis said, for he was not. He passed into eternity, a bridge between flesh and spirit. Dear soul, rest now in this wonder. Imagine that such a man once walked the same earth we do, and now walks among the stars. Why, then you ask, would such a sacred voice be silenced? That question, too, waits for us, and soon we will return to explore it. But for now, let Enoch's visions carry you to sleep. Let the stars wheel above your thoughts. Let the songs of angels surround you in silence. Subscribe for more sacred stories. Let this journey bless your rest. Rest easy, beloved. Let the quiet settle over your shoulders like a warm mantle. You're walking through memory now, sacred memory. And the path ahead leads not just through Enoch's visions, but through the hidden chambers of history. We have journeyed through the heavens, watched as angels fell, as giants rose, as divine judgment was declared. We stood beside Enoch, that strange, silent man of Genesis, and watched as God pulled back the veil, inviting him, inviting us, into a story too great for words. Now, beloved, draw near once more. The question lingers in the cool night air. Why was the Book of Enoch removed? Let your mind wander slowly to the early centuries of the church. The apostles are gone. Persecution fades into structure. And in its place, councils, creeds, and canon. The canon, beloved, that sacred list of books which form the Bible as we know it, did not descend from heaven bound in leather. It was chosen, discerned by men. Good men, perhaps, but men still. In the 2nd and 3rd centuries, church leaders were faced with a flood of texts. Gospels, letters, apocalypses, proverbs. Some true, some twisted. They needed order, clarity. So they met, and they asked not only, is this inspired, but also, is this useful, acceptable, safe? Rest, beloved. It is not wrong to desire order, but in that desire, some voices were hushed. The Book of Enoch was known, even quoted. Jude, the brother of Jesus, writes, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these saying, "Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of the saints." This is not a paraphrase. It is a direct quote from Enoch's book, which means, dear one, that Jude knew it. He read it. He believed it. And yet, it was not included. Why? Because Enoch was wild, untamed. It spoke of divine beings falling from heaven, of forbidden knowledge, of secret things locked away beyond the stars. And this was dangerous. Imagine yourself as a bishop in the 4th century. You are shepherding a fragile flock, surrounded by pagan philosophies, Gnostic heresies, and a church still forming its soul. You find the Book of Enoch, full of fire and angels and prophecy, and you hesitate. It's not that it contradicts Scripture. In many ways, it deepens it, but it stirs too much. Too many questions, too much mystery, too much power. And so, the book is left outside the canon. Not burnt, not banned, just quietly forgotten in the West. But not everywhere. Let your spirit wander to the highlands of Ethiopia. There for 2,000 years, the Orthodox Tewahedo Church kept the Book of Enoch within their Bible. They read it, revered it, believed it. To them, it was not heresy. It was heritage. And perhaps, dear soul, perhaps it is no coincidence that Ethiopia also claims to possess the Ark of the Covenant, that its history flows close to the roots of ancient Israel. Sometimes, the light flickers furthest from the center. Rest, beloved. The Book of Enoch did not vanish. It only slept until it was found again. In 1773, the Scottish explorer James Bruce returned from Ethiopia with 3 copies of the book, written in Guizi, an ancient tongue, for the first time in nearly 1,500 years. The Western world could read Enoch again, and what they found was not madness, but mystery. Yes, it is strange. Yes, it is symbolic and ancient and unfamiliar. But so is Revelation. So is Ezekiel. And like those books, Enoch speaks in visions. He speaks of the Son of Man, of thrones and judgment, of the righteous vindicated, and the wicked overthrown. He speaks of a God not distant, but involved, just, and near. Draw near, dear soul. Do you feel the weight of that? Perhaps Enoch was not removed out of fear of falsehood, but out of fear of how much truth it carried. For to read it is to accept that there is more to the world, more to history, more to the spiritual realm than we are often told. It is to admit that we have forgotten, more than we remember. But you are remembering now. You are awakening to ancient things. You are walking the same path Enoch walked, not with your feet, but with your mind, with your heart. Rest in that. Let this sacred mystery guide your sleep. And when you dream, may you hear the rustling of angelic wings, the soft turning of heavenly pages, and the voice of a man who walked with God and was not, for God took him. Subscribe for more sacred mysteries, and let the silence between the verses speak to you. When you're ready, beloved, welcome back, beloved. Draw your blanket closer. Let your breath steady. Let the stillness of the night be your companion, and may the soft hush of eternity surround you once again. We return to the Book of Enoch, not merely as readers, but as seekers. Seekers of meaning, of mystery, of sacred truths half remembered in the soul. We have walked with Enoch through the heavens, seen the rise and fall of the watchers, witnessed judgment from the Most High. But now we turn to one of the most profound aspects of Enoch's vision, the Son of Man. Let your mind wander slowly through time. Before Jesus was born in Bethlehem, before the Gospels were penned, before the cross was ever lifted on a hill called Golgotha, the Book of Enoch spoke of a figure radiant with divine glory, a figure seated beside God. Enoch calls him the elect one, the righteous one, the Son of Man. Pause here. Let that settle. Let your heart feel the echoes. This title, Son of Man, appears not only in Enoch, but in the words of Jesus himself. Again and again, Christ called himself by that name. Not King, not Messiah, not Son of God, though he was all of those, but Son of Man. It was no accident. In the Book of Enoch, the Son of Man is is described as one, whose face had the appearance of a man, and his countenance was full of grace. He is hidden in the presence of God until the appointed time, a time when he will be revealed, to bring justice to the earth, to comfort the righteous, and to judge the kings and the mighty ones. Imagine it, beloved. Imagine reading these words in the time of Christ. Imagine knowing that this mysterious, heavenly figure would come not from clouds first, but as a humble man, walking dusty roads, healing with hands calloused from wood and stone. Jesus knew the Book of Enoch. His disciples did too. When Peter, James, and John stood with Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration and saw his glory revealed, did they remember Enoch's visions? When Jesus told them of angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man, did their thoughts drift to that ancient book that whispered of heaven opening? Rest, beloved. Let your imagination breathe. The Book of Enoch paints a picture not only of the beginning, but of the end. It speaks of a final judgment, a day when the books will be opened, when the righteous will be clothed in light, and the wicked will fall like dry leaves in the wind. It speaks of a new earth, of peace, of the restoration of creation. These themes are not foreign to Scripture. They are echoed in Revelation. They are mirrored in Isaiah. The difference, beloved, is that Enoch wrote them long before, which leads us to a soft, trembling thought. Could it be that God gave visions of the end to a man who lived before the flood? That even then, when the world was still young, God was preparing the way. Enoch was told to write down what he saw for a distant generation. And now, that generation is here. You are here. Draw near. Let the comfort of that truth wash over you. You are not reading forgotten tales. You are hearing the echoes of destiny, of warnings, of hope. Because in Enoch's prophecies, hope burns like a candle in the night. Though angels fell, though giants roamed, though judgment came, still the righteous are remembered. Still, the Son of Man will come. Still, there is light. Imagine, beloved, a world remade, a garden restored, no more death, no more sorrow, only peace, and the presence of God walking among men again. The Book of Enoch closes with a vision of that peace, of the earth washed clean, of the holy ones rejoicing, of the Son of Man ruling in truth. And though the church did not include Enoch in the canon, it did not erase the hunger it stirred. Many early Christians, and many even today, have felt that stirring, that longing for what is lost, that curiosity for what was hidden, that reverence for what speaks beyond the veil. Rest, beloved. You are part of something ancient, not because you understand all, but because your heart is open. The mystery is not meant to be solved. It is meant to be dwelt in. So let the words of Enoch be a lullaby to your soul. Let his visions of light and fire and stars wrap around you like a gentle breeze. And let the promise of the Son of Man be your peace tonight. Subscribe for more sacred journeys. Let this be your sanctuary of wonder. Rest easy once more, beloved. You've journeyed far already, across the ancient sands of Eden, through the seven heavens with Enoch, past the chains of angels and the rise of giants, into the presence of the Son of Man. Now breathe. Breathe deeply. Feel the hush of eternity whisper around you. The story is not finished yet. Draw near, because though the visions may feel distant, they are not. They echo through time, and in quiet corners of the world, they are awakening again. The Book of Enoch was once thought lost, silenced by history, crushed under the weight of councils and time. But truth, beloved, truth has a way of resurfacing, like spring water breaking through old stone. And now, in our day, it is rising again. In the 20th century, among the caves of Qumran, fragments of Enoch were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Think of it, scrolls hidden in desert rock for over 2,000 years, preserved by the dry wind and silence. The Essenes, those reclusive keepers of ancient knowledge, had hidden them away. They read Enoch, they revered it, and it was there waiting like a seed buried deep in the soil, until the right season. Let that truth warm you. What is true is never truly lost. What is sacred always finds its voice again. And now, around the world, more and more are turning back to this book, not for doctrine, but for awe, for understanding, for wonder, for a voice that feels both ancient and familiar. Enoch's words speak of watchers still watching, of heaven still open, of a world not silent, but singing, if only we have ears to hear. Do you hear it, beloved? Let your soul rest. Let your spirit be still. For in the Book of Enoch, we are not just reading a prophecy. We are being invited into a perspective lost to time, a world where the spiritual realm was not theory, but reality, where angels moved like winds through trees, where stars had names, where the very earth had memory and voice. You see, in the modern world, we often explain away the mysterious. We reduce the sacred to symbols and dismiss what we cannot measure. But Enoch calls us back to the mystery, back to the awe, back to the place where heaven and earth still meet, back to the garden. Rest, beloved, rest in the knowing that you are part of a long story, a story written across the sky, a story of creation, fall, and restoration. The Book of Enoch doesn't just end with judgment. It ends with healing. It ends with the promise of justice restored, of the righteous no longer trampled, of the oppressed lifted up, of creation itself renewed. Imagine it, dear soul, a world without corruption, without sorrow, where every tear is wiped away, where the Son of Man walks among the people once more. This is not fiction. This is not myth. This is the dream of God, still alive, still unfolding. And Enoch, this quiet, mysterious figure, was shown a glimpse of it long before Moses, long before David, long before Jesus stepped into time. What does that mean? Perhaps it means that God has always been speaking, and sometimes his whispers come through voices long buried. Perhaps Enoch's book was hidden, not to erase it, but to preserve it, until a generation would finally listen. Could it be us? Let your heart ponder that in the silence. Let your spirit rest beside that possibility. Not to be afraid, not to be confused, but to awaken, to remember, because this too is what bedtime stories were made for. Not just to soothe the mind, but to stir the soul. You, beloved, are not just a listener. You are part of the story. And as the stars turn above you tonight, and the old winds rustle again, may you find peace in knowing that the forgotten is being remembered, that the ancient is returning, and that truth still speaks. Softly but surely, let this mystery cradle you as you sleep. Let the story of Enoch guide your dreams. And if your heart longs for more sacred tales, more voices from the shadows of time, subscribe and journey with us again.